Another thing that they do away with in the movie is Ella's home life. I mean, they don't. They obviously have Hattie and Dame Olga and Olive. They're there. But the fact that they open with them being already more or less an installation in Ella's household sort of detracts from Sir Peter's relevance, from Mandy's relevance, and from Ella's mother's relevance. Ella's mother is incredibly important to her, and yes, she dies early on, but she is mentioned and brought up and spoken of in Ella's narration in the following pages, and the rest of the book, for the most part. And Mandy's character, and the fact that Mandy is not conventionally attractive, dumb movie, is a big part of the novel, and I like that. I like that Mandy is bossy, but she tries to not order Ella around because she knows about Ella's curse. And I like that Mandy's character provides that contrast between, yes, I'm a bossy person, but because my behavior means something else when it's directed toward you, I will change my behavior to accommodate that. And when you don't have that character present in the movie, like, yeah, she's, whatever, mentioned and briefly appears, but she's not anywhere near as prominent and as important a character as she is in the novel. And I think that's a really beautiful... No. And that change bothers me, because you don't get that sort of nuance to Ella's curse, and nuance to how she could be treated by people who know of the curse, and the contrast to Hattie, who only thinks to use the curse to control Ella because she's a shitty person. And putting everything on Dame Olga and Hattie and Olive doesn't do justice to how manipulative Sir Peter is. Because what I find really cool about Sir Peter's character in the book is that the commands he issues to Ella are not incredibly frequent. He will command her, yes, but he won't command her to do, like, the main difficult things that he could command her to do. He never commands her to get married. He never commands her to go to finishing school. But he still controls her. He still makes her go to finishing school. He still expects her to go into this arranged marriage. He still looks into ways to exploit her and ways to use her to his own gain, despite not knowing about the curse. And the way that Ella is used by characters who don't understand the curse, or who do understand the curse, and how that control changes, and how Ella is able to combat those different forms of control, is really important to her character. The fact that she feels forced to go to finishing school, and despite not receiving a direct command to, is important because it shows that her struggles against commanding and oppressive presences in her life are not limited to this magical thing. She can't blame everything that goes wrong on the magical curse that she's got bearing down on her. And that's awesome. It's awesome to, I mean, okay, no, it's not awesome that she has to go to finishing school and she's subject to her father's whim, but it's awesome to see that perspective. It's awesome to change it to a more nuanced and complicated version of events. And then the movie does away with Sir Peter's character. And by taking Sir Peter out, they just focus it again on this singular antagonist that they need to add for no reason. And one of the best things about Ella Enchanted is there's no, like, main antagonist. There's Hattie, there's Dame Olga, there's Olive. Those are challenging forces in Ella's life, but the big showdown is between Ella and her curse, which is an extension of both herself and of society. The main conflict in this novel is Ella versus an aspect of herself, her curse, and Ella versus a society allegory, the expectations and limitations that her curse sets for her. And by changing that to a superficial power struggle between this weird, kind of cartoonish guy is too dismissive of the importance of the curse and the relevance it has to Ella's character growth and who she is because of and despite of it. And it's stupid to turn Lucinda into her fairy godmother instead of Mandy and have Ella need to chain herself to a tree. The curse in Ella Enchanted, the book, the actual story, Ella Enchanted, is something that is difficult to pick up on. Hattie does it because she's a very commanding person, and the more commands you issue, the more likely you are to pick up on. But in an average conversation, in an average interaction, you're not going to notice that Ella has this curse. In the movie, it's turned into a joke. It's turned into things that puppet her around and make her do things that are overly literal and overly contrived. And by doing that, by having her have to literally force a plastered-on smile onto her face and literally hop away, you turn it into a less powerful metaphorical device that no longer represents the constraints that Ella is placed under by the rest of her society and by her family, and instead represents this, cartoonish, goofy stuff. So yeah, Ella Enchanted, my rambly, unscripted, spewy thoughts version. I think most of my problems with Ella Enchanted can be said to stem from one thing. The book is not talking down to children. It's aimed at a younger audience, but you can enjoy it if you're my age. You can enjoy it if you're older than I am, and you can enjoy it if you're a little kid who thinks that adaptations of fairy tales are neat. The movie doesn't do that. The movie tries to be a family film. It tries to be a film for kids that does not take kids' intelligence into account. Yeah, maybe a kid's not going to get all the thematic implications of Ella's curse. Maybe a kid's not going to be like, well, this is really representative of greater things in each of these characters. But a kid's still going to get this book. They're going to read it, they're going to think it's kick-ass, and they're going to come back to it. It's going to stick. The movie does away with the thematic stuff, and does away with the interesting stuff, and turns it into, what if we have wacky fun times with a cute romance thing that's from every rom-com you've ever seen, and also fairies and elves that sing? Don't talk down to kids. Kids won't be able to articulate the fact that there's a deeper thematic meaning, but they will be able to understand that. They'll remember that in later life. They will think of that story and be like, oh, there's a deeper thematic meaning that I now recognize and making videos about on the internet because the movie fucking sucks. Because I need to rant at a stupid camera and, by extension, the people on the other side of it to communicate the fact that this book does so much more for anyone who reads it than the movie will for someone who watches it. The movie is forgettable, awful, and an insult to the amazingness that is Gail Carson Levine's novel. Don't watch the movie. You may be tempted to, now that I've talked about it so much. But don't. It's not worth it. It's not even a conventionally bad movie where you can laugh at its terribleness. In all respects, it is a fairly well-made, semi-well-acted, when it's not being cartoonish, thing. It's just bad because it's a bad adaptation. It doesn't take the source material's thematic meaning into account, and it doesn't care about its audience's intelligence. So have you read this book? Did you have a book like this when you were younger? Or hell, do you have a book like this now where you just wish the movie adaptation didn't exist because the book is infinitely better? Let me know. Bye.